Hey guys, today I am going to be making a video that I have really wanted to make, but also in the exact same time do not want to make it all because the only time I get the chance to really film is when I don't have kids and there's not stressors going on. And this topic that I want to make a video on is a stressful kid-related topic, and so when I don't have them, it's really the last thing I want to do is rethink of it all. But we just got back from a doctor appointment, so it's fresh on my mind, and I just wanted to kind of sit down and talk with you guys about something really big that's affected mine and my family's lives, my daughter specifically, and just kind of talk about it and bring awareness to it, because I've learned that a lot of people actually struggle with this, and a lot of people struggled with it as kids and their parents didn't understand or disregarded their feelings. And so as that parent of a child struggling, I just kind of want to talk about it and bring awareness to what it is. Obviously, I haven't even explained what it is that I'm talking about, but explaining what it is, signs for it, things that we've done that have helped, and just kind of tracking our journey, because it is, unfortunately, a lot of times it's a lifelong struggle. Some people can overcome it. A lot of times it's something that people live with for the rest of their life. And so this is our journey, and I just wanted to bring you guys along and kind of explain and share it with you guys, because I'm sure a lot of you are actually going through something similar, and hopefully you guys can find comfort in this. I know my daughter and I would have loved to have found a channel that really talked about this topic and made you feel less alone. So I hope that we can do that for you. Obviously today it's just me, but hopefully in the future, if she becomes more comfortable with it, she can come on and talk about it. Let's go ahead and get into the video, and I will kind of explain what I'm even talking about, because I'm sure you're sitting here like, what? My daughter, she's 9 years old. She has struggled with anxiety for the past 3 to 4 years now, and I didn't really know when it started. It's a lot to kind of unravel now that I'm really thinking about it. Her anxiety started around the time that her dad and I were divorcing. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had just had her brother, so she went from being an only child with a stay-at-home mom to parents divorcing, mom's getting a job and have a new brother, and she started school that same year. It's a lot of life changes for a little human. So I kind of thought that was the anxiety. That's what this was stemming from, was her life as a 5-year-old is in shambles, you know? But it got more specific, or at least I realized how specific it was getting. And there's a lady coming up by my window. She's just staring at the plant. I think she's a landscaper, but all these landscapers, they just come out and stare at the plants. And I'm sure there's something they're really looking at, but they just come and they're like, she's still just staring at it. Okay, now she's walking away. Anyways, sorry, distracted. That's what I kind of assumed it was just life stresses, things like that. But I realized it was more specific. And it was this fear of throwing up. It was this irrational, debilitating fear. It's usually how I explain it to people. Because when I say, oh, she's scared of throwing up, people think like, oh, you know, like they make jokes about it, or they think it's not that big of a deal. It is an absolute debilitating fear of throwing up. And we're gonna fast forward and then I'll go back to where I left off. But learning recently, there is a name for this irrational fear, and it's called emetophobia. I could totally be saying that wrong. And it is one of the top 5 common phobias in the world. I think the fear of darkness, fear of small spaces, fear of spiders, those are usually like the top ones that people talk about and are aware about. And those are very real fears that people understand and accept. But this fear of throwing up, and it's the fear of the person, them throwing up, or the people around them throwing up, is one of those top fears. And it is often misdiagnosed, often mistreated, often misunderstood. These people are often told to get over it. They're told they're dramatic. They're told, you're fine, just get over it. You're fine, get over it. And the best way I can explain it to people is someone that has claustrophobia, if they're in a tight space and they start having a panic attack because that is their fear, these enclosed spaces, they, in most situations, obviously, sometimes it's not the situation, but they can get out of that small room. They can get away from that claustrophobic space. Again, usually. They can leave that panic space, and they may still have residual panicking feelings as they're leaving or after they've left, because their fears were just faced, you know, but they can get out of that room. they can control, usually, not always, again, they can control being in small rooms and avoiding. They can tell people, hey, I'm claustrophobic, so people around them, oh my gosh, for sure, I won't, I'll protect you, I'll help you, we'll avoid this room. People are very understanding of claustrophobia. This fear of throwing up, to me, is the worst of them all. Obviously, it's the only one that I've really had personal experience with. But as a 9-year-old who is learning her body, learning feelings of your body, nervous feelings, excited feelings, anxious feelings, scared feelings, your feelings in your mind affect your body. They affect your stomach. Your stomach feels weird because you're nervous, right? You have butterflies in your stomach. Your hands are clammy. You laugh, you cry. Those are all expressions of feelings. This leaf is really dying, isn't it? Wow. Sorry. It was really bad train of thought. Sidetracked. And so somebody, especially a child that is anxious, so she's already just kind of an on-edge child. She gets anxious very easily. Little things kind of set her off. Loud noises can set her off. New places can set her off. But because that is her fear, so if she gets nervous, I get nervous, my stomach hurts, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous because XYZ, right? Makes sense to me, my brain processes that, I move on with it. Her brain, she's nervous, her brain is instantly, oh, my stomach hurts because I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up, everyone panic, I'm throwing up, I'm gonna throw up. Now her throat feels tight, oh my gosh, I'm gonna throw up. And there is no way to change her thought process. I mean, there is, and she's in counseling and things like that, but she can't leave that small room. She's stuck in her head, convincing herself that she's gonna throw up, which is causing her to feel more anxiety, which is causing her stomach to feel worse because she's feeling anxious. So she's in this constant cycle within her own body and in her own mind, convincing herself that she is sick. This is every single day for the past 4 years. Some days are better, some days are worse. Some days we are both in tears all day long. Because if there's only so much you can do as far as comforting when someone is convinced in their mind that this is what's happening. The only way out of it is to convince them that their brain is lying to them, which is something that we've, worked through, and she's gotten really good at separating her thoughts, because I know she has logical thoughts in there, but anxiety takes over logical thoughts. But we talk a lot about the different thought process her brain has, because she'll tell me, I know I'm okay, but I'm worried. So she's making that logical connection that she knows she is okay, which is a lot of progress because we were not there even a year ago. That's what we've had to do a lot to help, is just kind of separating the two parts of her brain, her anxious side and her logical side, and helping her understand that. Because the thing with anxiety or even these phobias is there's only so much your support can do. That person has to fight that battle. I'm here with her through everything. Her family is, her teachers, I'm in contact with her teachers and the school counselor, and everyone's aware of this. But at the end of the day, it is up to her on how she can get through it. Anyways, this fear, now we're going back. Remember I said we'd go back? We're going back now. This fear is usually triggered. You're not born with a phobia. It's something traumatizing happens to you, which tells your brain to constantly be on alert now and constantly be in fear because of a traumatizing event. And so emetophobia, it's usually triggered around elementary level, and it's usually, what most cases are, is seeing a child throw up in front of you. A lot of times in school is the situations that they give, is seeing a kid throw up in front of you and seeing everyone's reactions, seeing the panic, the horror, seeing the panic on the kid's face, how the teachers responded. The whole scenario can be traumatizing for a kid, especially if they've never thrown up or if they've never seen someone throw up. The embarrassment, the secondhand embarrassment, because that's the thing, it can either be the person that saw someone throw up at an elementary level, or they were the person that threw up and experienced the trauma at them. It's future Hannah here. There's just a few things that I didn't really mention in this video. I didn't really prepare what I was gonna say or talk about. I just needed to talk about it. There's a few things I say that I don't include the full information, and I feel like if I'm trying to inform and bring awareness, I should bring more information forward. This phobia is not only caused by a traumatic event at school or an elementary level. Well, it usually is elementary age level, but not necessarily at schools. A lot of times it can also be caused by a child that was sick themselves and didn't have the proper care given to them and explained to them what was going on, and so it's traumatic to be experiencing something and no one guiding you through it or supporting you or comforting you. That's another way that this phobia can be caused. It can be triggered traumatically like that. And then another way is seeing a parent be sick and again, just not really explained or supported through that. Really, that's what it comes down to, that I've noticed, is it's just a lack of feeling supported in that moment, because again, throwing up is so common and normal and a part of life. And so to see someone so scared of it, it's easy to just kind of brush it off and tell them to just get over it, or tell them it's not a big deal, but not realizing that it really can be traumatic for that child. And that's the same with other phobias too. A lot of them aren't because of a genuine traumatic, what we think traumatic is not what traumatic is. That doesn't make sense, but traumatic is different depending on the person and the situation. Something that was traumatic to another person is not always traumatic to another. And so that's why we just need to have more grace and understanding when it comes to these phobias, because they're real for that person, and it's just more than getting over it. It is a genuine part of who they are, and it's about helping them get through it and be supported and relearn that this is not as bad as their brain told them it was in the beginning. Because again, traumatic events cause your brain to be on hyper awareness of just thinking these things are the end of the world. So anyways, I think that's all that I wanted to touch on. So when Lila was in kindergarten, a kid out of nowhere turned in his desk and completely just threw up everywhere. It's common, and most kids can brush it off. In these scenarios though, there are children that are traumatized by these events, and they can tell people that it was so scary, and no one's going to believe them, because throwing up is such a common thing that people are always, you know, it gets labeled as being dramatic. Calm down, you're being crazy, you're being dramatic, you're over emotional. Whatever the situation is, they're told to disregard their feelings. But their feelings are based on genuine trauma that is trying to protect them, that is telling them, no, this is bad, this is dangerous. So she's basically having to unlearn those traumatic events and learn the logical reasoning of throwing up and what can cause throw up, which can lead as an adult to an even worse situation, eating disorders, OCD. It can lead to isolation. It can lead to a lot of really dark things, because as you get older, you learn different things that can cause sicknesses and spoiled food and things like that, where her brain hasn't fully grasped those things. But she does check expiration dates, and she questions if something was on the counter, if that's okay, which is good. That's the thing, it's good to be aware of what you're eating, but for somebody like her, that can easily become an obsessive compulsive disorder, and it can easily consume her life. And so it has been really hard. Meal times are hard, new meals, new places are hard, and bedtime is really hard, because the times that she has become sick has always been in the middle of the night, waking up in the middle of the night, very sick. And so bedtime is a huge trigger for her every single night, because she is worried of the unknown, which is understandable. And so it's a lot of explaining to her, again, the logical side of things of, you know, you're not sick, no one around you is sick, explaining to her the millions of reasons why your stomach could feel a certain way, and how throw up is like the last possible reason why your stomach would feel a certain way. And I tried so hard to not have to get her on medication. We did counseling, we've tried CBD, we've tried all the different coping mechanisms, and it was just getting really bad. It was starting to send her into a depression, definitely. I've never really brought that side up to her, because I don't know that she understands that. She's aware of her anxiety, but I don't think she understands what depression is. I'm sure she would if I explained it to her, but I don't know that I want to add more to what she's already struggling with, to add like, hey, you're also struggling with this, because I don't think she's aware that she's struggling with it, if that makes sense. But she would say things like she just wishes she wasn't alive. She wishes, you know, that this wasn't her life, that wasn't the way that her life had to be. She feels like she ruins everything for her family. She feels like she, you know, steals joy from situations because of her anxieties. And I remember so specifically the turning point in my mind as her mom, because I kept thinking, we can fix this, I can help her, we can get through this, maybe it's a phase, maybe she'll grow out of it, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. I was trying to just everything to think we could get through this. And the turning point for me, I remember so specifically at our old house, she was taking something to the trash can and she just looked miserable. And it was a fine day, nothing had happened. She didn't have a panic attack, nothing was going on, but she just looked miserable. And so, like, lightheartedly, I said, "Smile, pretty girl. Like, I want to see that smile, you know, just smile." And she just looked at me with these sad eyes and she was just like, "I wish it was that easy, mommy." She was like, "It's not that easy." And then she just, her eyes like welled up and she just went to her room and, you know, I comforted her and we got through it. But that moment to me was such a cry for help of realizing this anxiety has sent her into depression. She is not getting anything out of life anymore. She is unhappy. She's home. We're in her safe place and she's still unhappy. And that's when I finally decided that she needed help, more help than I could provide, more help than counseling could provide. And so I made an appointment with her doctor and they had us bring in a family history of any mental illnesses, just because a lot of times it's usually genetic, and that helps kind of build the case of what she could be going through. Maybe I can do a video if you guys are interested on like the specifics of the appointments and how they went. But nonetheless, we got her on medication and she was on the lowest dosage of Lexapro. She was on 5 milligrams and that really helped a lot. And she recently was bumped up to 10 because she started really digressing and it was almost as if the medication wasn't doing anything at all. And so we bumped her up to 10 and she's doing really well again. And honestly, I feel like since learning about this phobia, it's given me kind of a reset on how I view things, because it's hard to not get frustrated and to not get worked up with somebody that's anxious. And it's so hard because that's the last thing you want to do. You know you're not supposed to get frustrated with them. You know you're supposed to just comfort them. But I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it is really hard to just be that complete support 24/7 and to not get overwhelmed and to not get frustrated, especially as a single parent with another child that has wants and needs as well, that is also getting affected by this. It's really hard and overwhelming. I feel like since learning about this specific phobia, I've really been able to kind of take that step back and look at it just from a different lens. And like all of her triggers make so much more sense now. I just feel like I have a better understanding of what it is that she's going through. And I have joined a Facebook support group and I've just kind of delved into this world of emetophobia and just learning about it. And I just for once feel so much less alone. I feel so understood, and for her, like for her sake, not even for my sake, for just being like, oh my gosh, I've been telling people she's scared of throwing up and everyone's like, "You're scared of throwing up, joke around." Like no one ever took it seriously. And I just found this world of people that are struggling, and this support group is a bunch of adults for the most part and that are struggling, and just hearing the questions they ask and the fears that they have are all things that I have heard my daughter say. And it's just reassuring. It's hard to see because I see that these are adults and they're still struggling, and so it worries me for her future. But it's also so reassuring to just see other people in the same mindset that she's in and just feeling like we're not alone. You know, there's a support out there for us. And I'm very open with her and talked to her when I found out about this phobia and explained it to her, and her face even lit up at this whole idea of like, oh my gosh, I have that, 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 because there's a list of early signs or signs of emetophobia, and I read them out to her and she's like, check, 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 which just stinks. Like, it stinks that she has those, but her smiling was enough to be like, she's just happy to be understood. Someone understands, which is her biggest thing, because especially in the midst of a really big panic attack, she just says, no one understands, no one understands. You don't understand, mommy, no one understands. It's different this time, you don't understand, which is the anxiety, which is the fear of saying, you know, it's that protective of like, you don't get it, and it's different this time. This time, what if I do throw up? Which is an understandable fear to have when that is her fear. And so I just wanted to come on and kind of, I guess, open up and talk about it. It's been something that's just weighed on me a lot. And I just feel like there's not enough resources out there and there's not enough knowledge out there. And so I wanted to provide what I could and what I've learned. I would love to do deeper videos on just what the appointments entailed, maybe a more in-depth timeline, more in-depth of her triggers and things like that. But she's doing really well. We just had her, she had counseling yesterday, which was getting her back into her normal counselor, and she was super excited. That went great. I brought up those specifics to her counselor as far as emetophobia and just kind of explain to her a lot of that. And so she's going to work on more exposure therapy with her, as like specifically on throwing up, because we were kind of focusing more on just generalized anxiety, but I think the anxiety is one and the phobia is the other, but I think the phobia is the ruler and the phobia is making the anxiety worse. And so if we can get to this root, hopefully we can, you know, come to a better resolution. So she did that yesterday and it was really good. And then today she had her 1 month follow-up since we've upped her medicine to 10 with her normal doctor, and that went really well, and he was very happy with her progress and how much it's helped. And so he gave a lot of good advice, which again, if you guys want, we can go more in depth on another time. I left there feeling really good and confident, but I just want to come on here and kind of update you guys on what's going on and honestly just get it off my chest, because a lot of times when you have a lot in your brain, it feels good to just say it out loud. Right now, no one is in front of me, but just saying it out loud feels really good. And I really, really hope that it can reach a lot of you guys and hopefully help you guys feel less alone, whether you are struggling yourself or you know someone that is struggling. You're not alone. This is an absolute gut-wrenching, debilitating fear. That's the worst. And I can't speak from personal experience from actually experiencing it, but as someone's supporter, it's awful and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I hope, in that sense, I hope none of you guys can relate, but I also hope you can relate and get something out of this. But until then, I love you guys and I'll see you next time.